welcome to the Walking Dead UK podcast. It's Entertainment Talks podcast for The Walking Dead World Beyond on AMC and Amazon. I'm your host Matthew. Joining me today, my co-host is David. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. This is for season 1, episode 7, Truth or Dare, veering towards the end of the season. What do you think of this episode?
I enjoyed this week. I thought it was good. Finally got the Huck flashbacks we've been waiting for. We've been saying for the last 3 or 4 episodes. Huck's the only one that's not had a flashback, so we finally get that, which was quite good, and we got to see, how she kind of got where she did. I'm glad they didn't completely do what they have done in other shows, and we actually got them back together fairly quick. I had this horrible feeling we might end up with an episode just following Huck, and they didn't do that. They brought them all back together fairly fast and did what they've done throughout the rest of the series, which is slot the flashbacks into the sort of main story, which I rather liked where they went with there. Another interesting death this season and a nice little twist at the end, which I rather liked. I'm not sure where they go from there, but that's an interesting dilemma they've got to deal with as well. So overall I thought this was quite interesting, this episode.
Cool. Yeah, I really like this episode a lot. Interesting things with flashbacks, like you said, with Huck this time, finally filling in that gap, and yet again kind of contributing to the Walking Dead's, at least the TV world, the lore of it, in terms of we actually saw an army group. Huck was part of one of them. We saw what happened there, because one of the biggest questions, I think we had a question about this last week, is how did the army get defeated? Well, we know that at least from Huck's side, she killed them because they were going to massacre a bunch of innocent civilians.
Yes.
Which I thought was very, very interesting. Some really interesting stuff with Silas in this episode, and with Tony, and what's the other one's name? Is it Casey? Not Casey. The friend that was with Tony that we've just met.
Yes.
Interesting things there as well. Some reveals with different characters opening up about different things. I thought that was great. I thought this episode was paced really well. I really like what they're doing so far with this show, and it'll be very interesting to see how they go with things moving forward. How did you feel about the pacing of this episode?
It was okay. I think the pacing worked reasonably well. Dipped a little bit in the middle maybe, but generally I thought it was paced okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you get these little sort of sequences of the kids being kids as well, of them kind of sneaking drink off, and they had this conversation about sort of, should we just let them be kids for a night, it's some of the relationship stuff does slow things down slightly, but it's probably necessary. So, particularly is where we end up the episode, I think that was possibly required. So,
yeah, but yeah, I still think the ultimate goal of the season is probably get to New York by the end of the season finale. And this first season's really just about the journey along the way, the character development, the flashbacks, and contributing to the lore, which I think they've done a fantastic job. They're this show, one of the reasons I think this show is so good, I mean there's a lot of different reasons, but one of the specific reasons is not only is this doing its own job very well, which is showing more about this CRM group and these characters and them sort of exploring the world for the first time, it's also doing Fear's job for it, which is showing us more. It's absolutely done more of that backstory than Fear ever did. And I know they're doing it for specific characters and that, but we've seen so much more of it, and the show's doing 2 jobs and doing it very, very well. So I've really, really enjoyed that. That's been great. But no, brilliant stuff this week. Really, really enjoyed it. And we'll see how they deal with Silas next week, I suppose, or what they do about that. That's pretty much all the pre-talk points that I've sort of got. Let's take a quick little break, and then we will get into the recap. See you for that in a minute. Hi there, and thanks very much for listening. Today I'm here to tell you about our 2 different affiliate links. The first of which is our Amazon affiliate link. That's where you can shop on Amazon. We can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you anything extra. So whether you're getting a gift for somebody else, or treating yourself, or maybe both depending on the occasion, we can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you extra. You can find the link to our Amazon affiliate link in your show notes. The second affiliate link for today is our Kualu affiliate link. If you want to get started with a website and a domain name of your choice, you can simply sign up with Kualu using the link in the show notes. They also have a live chat support system that's in the bottom right hand corner as well. So if you need help with getting set up, Kualu will be able to help you with that as well. The links for both of these can be found in your show notes for Kualu and the Amazon affiliate link. If you would like to get the ad-free versions of Entertainment Talks podcast and support us along the way, you can simply sign up over on our Patreon page. You can sign up either as a creator or as a patron. There's no difference there for the time being, and you can get your ad-free podcasts over there. It's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also support Entertainment Talk on Patreon at the $3 level tier. This gets you a chance to request a review from us of your favourite TV show or film, but it's one per month, so one TV show or film review per month. It's up to you which one you want to choose. We will watch a few episodes of the TV show that you choose, or of course if it's a film, we'll just watch that film and we will review that for you on that month. And then when it gets to the next month, you can request a new TV show or a film review of your choice. That's $3 level tier. That does also of course include your ad-free podcasts for the month as well. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of the show. Alright, recently on Entertainment Talk, we haven't done our gaming podcast yet this week. The reason being, later today, the Game Award nominations are going to be announced. So there's usually 5 nominees for the main game of the year, and I wanted to save those big talking points for today. So me and Robert later are going to be doing Gaming Talk today instead of yesterday, so I can't tell you what else we talked about because we haven't recorded the podcast yet. But yeah, for those of you that are wondering, I think it's about 4:30 today. Jeff Keighley, who of course owns and hosts the Game Awards, great guy. He's going to be doing a little video and announcing the nominees for lots of different categories, but we'll see what comes out from that. And if the Avengers gets nominated for the Game of the Year, I'm going to shut Entertainment Talk down. No, but we'll see what gets nominated for that as well. Some interesting candidates there. Bear in mind as well that Cyberpunk is not eligible this year for the nominees, mainly because it isn't actually out yet.
It's not out yet.
Yeah, it got delayed to December 10th. So don't expect that to be nominated for Game of the Year this year. That will be for next year. But anyway, look out for the Gaming Talk podcast later. Over on the other side of Walking Dead things, Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 6, the mid-season finale is next week as well, the 7th episode, so you can get my continued thoughts on that other side of the Walking Dead equation. Let's Play Sunday's episode, this is for Fall Guys. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's basically a platformer, battle royale type of thing, is doing really, really well. That's the solo video that I did. I did do a co-op video with Robert, and that one will be out soon as well. Star Trek Discovery Season 3 Episode 5, that's been really good so far this season, and those podcasts will continue on Friday. Becoming Heisenberg, we returned to the world of Breaking Bad. We gathered all of your feedback up for the first season, the feedback for that, and we just did a dedicated feedback episode because we didn't do any of that when we recorded the episodes because they were scheduled. So we gathered up all your feedback over the 7 episodes for the first season and talked about your questions, comments, concerns, ideas, and all that sort of stuff. So you can check that out as well if you want to. And we'll be back at some point in 2021 to talk about Season 2. We haven't decided yet, but at some point next year we'll talk about that. We've also got Gaming Talk for last week. We talked about the Avengers and just more bad stuff that's happening over there. The Mass Effect trilogy is going to be getting remastered in, I think it's supposed to be the spring of 2021, isn't it? Around March or so. So that's going to be really good, and some really big additions to Game Pass as well. Did the spoiler-free review for Enola Holmes. That's of course, Sherlock Holmes' sister, played by Millie Bobby Brown in that film, and Sherlock Holmes is played by Henry Cavill, brilliant actor. and really enjoyed that. That's a spoiler-free review. That's available on Netflix globally, so check that out as well if you want to. And of course, the most recent United Cast episode from a few weeks ago, Manchester United beating Everton 3-1 away. There's been a very long international break. It's been a little bit frustrating, actually. England have been knocked out of the competition that they're actually in, so that's the result. That's the actual result of that anyway. But Manchester United will be returning on Saturday at home to West Brom, and goodness me, if we can't beat West Brom, we've certainly got some problems. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that on Saturday night. Bit of Saturday night football. But that's everything we've been doing on entertainmenttalk.org and on podcast platforms. The episode starts with a flashback to a jukebox. People in army apparel are in some sort of uncertain situation, seemingly shepherding a crowd of people. It is a memory of Hux. She's the one that we're following in said flashback, who wakes up startled by it. She cleans and readies her gun. She goes out into the woods and is happy to find her boots, so sort of going back to present time. She wakes up and everything. She throws them over her shoulder before finding a marine pin on a walker. She continues on her way until the truck approaches, with Felix waving to her waving at her out of the window, and that is your cold open. So yeah, contributing more to the world of the Walking Dead's lore in terms of what happened to the army. That's been one of the biggest questions. That and, where is the cure or whatever. We're actually asking that question in present time as well, with regards to a different virus. So it's a bit interesting there. Yeah, what did you make of the little start of the flashbacks with Huck and the army and things?
Yeah, I mean, they did a reasonable job just sort of introducing that. I mean, we've seen this in previous episodes where they've dropped in little bits like that opening bit, and then we've not seen kind of the follow-up part until the next episode. They did it with Silas when you saw that he'd obviously been beaten up or beaten somebody up. And you saw with the claustrophobia as well. You saw in that you got that little snippet in that one episode, and then they expanded the next episode. With this, they've just done this at the start, and then they kind of expand it later on in the episode. So, but I still think it worked there, and we knew that she had this sort of marine background. So, yeah, I think it was a nice signaler of what's to come, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
And like I say, the other thing is, like I say, I did worry that maybe we were going to get an entire episode of just Huck, and it was going to feel like a bottle episode. And I'm rather glad that they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This isn't Fear the Walking Dead, so what they've been doing over there this season has not worked at all. Yeah, I think it's very, very interesting the way they're contributing to the lore here, and it's just great to see more of the past. And there's still so many questions that we got. How did the army kind of fall? We got some answers to that later on. I was slightly nervous at the very start of this flashback because they put a lot of emphasis on like the importance of this guy, and I can't remember if they had said that Huck was part of the I couldn't, as I was watching that scene, I couldn't quite remember, and I was like, oh, is this just like how she and her boyfriend or friend or whatever kind of got on in the apocalypse? And I was kind of a bit nervous that would just sort of be it. But then after we got the actual answers to, he's this other guy who's there and very much involved, but they're all part of this army group. I just could not remember at the time when this opening scene was playing if she was in the army or whatever, but then they sort of revealed that as we went further on into the episode and stuff. And then you see on the news about like it's things are breaking out and stuff. What I like about that little touch as well is you get everyone that's a little bit panicked. They all walk over to the bar, and they all see what's going on in the news and everything. You sort of get a little glimpse just to completely confirm that, okay, this is the outbreak. As the audience, we already know, okay, we don't need to know about like, shooting them in the head and whatever, and the screams and panics of people. And then the camera then cuts back over to Huck to actually get her reaction, because the scene, although it is contributing to, okay, this is where she was at the start, it's about what happened with her specifically. So I just like how the camera doesn't stay on the TV screen. It does for a second, just so that you know what Huck's actually looking at, and then it cuts back over to her, so you just get her little sort of initial reaction. I just thought that was a good little touch as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was good. But yeah, very, very good opening, and I really liked what they did with that. In a new and safe place, Huck tosses the boots to Silas. They are his size, which is a good thing. Meanwhile, Elton is learning card tricks and magic. Later, Felix and Huck discuss their journey to New York. Yeah, you've got Tony and Elton. Tony, who doesn't quite survive the rest of the episode, teaching Elton about these card tricks and stuff. And I thought it added a nice little sort of touch to the two characters. Because he's been kind of curious about not necessarily magic, but things like science and history and that kind of thing. It sort of felt like it fit in a bit with his character. And it was also kind of nice as well in a way where at certain points in the show, the older characters have felt a little bit more disconnected from the younger ones. So it was just good to see them have... I know that obviously their bonding won't go any further because one of them's now dead. But I just thought it was a good little moment to sort of contribute to a small bit of character development. What did you think of Elton in that scene and Tony?
Yeah, I think it made perfect sense out of all the characters that are there. Elton's
Yeah.
the one that's just curious about the world, and particularly something like magic tricks, I think it will be absolutely fascinating for him. So yeah, it completely fits Felix's character. No, not Felix. Elton's character. That Elton's going to be the one that's completely fascinated by this sort of stuff. So I think it made perfect sense for them to be kind of bonding over this sort of stuff. I'm kind of ashamed that Tony doesn't make it out the episode, but yeah, I could have stood to see a bit more of him actually. But that's the way things go.
Yeah, we'll talk about that death scene when we get to it. The group looks at the 3 CRM maps. They have discovered a location from which the helicopters touch down and take off to get gas, because obviously they need that as well. The group is happy to have a destination, sort of. Felix admits they don't know exactly where they are going. He knows that looking for a CRM could be a location. Huck is ready to fly blind in search of the location, so they're starting to sort of plan their journey a bit more. There's not too much to maybe talk about here, but yeah, I think we could kind of maybe just move on from that scene. That's just sort of a little planning scene as well. Unless you got anything you want to say about that? Just the sort of planning? So
yeah, no, other than the sort of that's where we first see them introduce the maps where you kind of got to shine a light through them to get them to find the locations, wasn't it? That was the first time we saw that map, because that was how they were hiding the sort of gas locations, which you had these like translucent things, which I thought was quite cool, the way that they did that.
Yeah. In the past, Huck plays darts at a bar and hits a bullseye with a blindfold on. They celebrate and have some drinks. She brings beer to the man at the jukebox before a newscast shows hospitals going into lockdown as well. Yeah, Huck works for E4. The darts. Yeah, for some reason, as soon as this scene happened, I immediately thought of the the joke that we make about E4 scheduling being kind of a dartboard drunk game and stuff. So yeah. So
yeah. Although clearly, I mean, yeah, blindfold darts is one thing, but she's hitting the bullseye every time. I mean, that's clearly not drunk enough for E4 dart scheduling.
Yeah, they should hire her so that she can fix their scheduling, so that Charmed isn't on at 5 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Any thoughts on this particular scene? She's kind of like having, kind of the calm before the storm a little bit, having a little bit of fun before they sort of see this newscast and stuff, which I thought was interesting. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, other than she's a kick-ass darts player, but apart from that, you don't really get a huge amount more out of information that we hadn't already seen out of this.
Yeah, which is cool. In the present, Iris continues analysing maps. She calls for Hope and the others and reveals that she thinks she knows where their dad is. They are headed to Ithaca, New York. Huck reveals to Felix that finding the dead Marine this morning brought back some tough memories. So this is just before they actually start the drinking game, which is, the truth or dare thing for the actual name of the episode. Any thoughts on sort of the build-up and all that? And
yeah, no, I mean this is just sort of again, her going through the maps, I think was quite nice, and you got that she sort of figures out that they can actually find, well, hopefully they think have found where the center is, because it's got like a double helix thing marked over the top of it, so they assume that's the lab that they're supposed to be trying to find. And Ithaca would make sense because I think it's got a big science university there, so that would make sense.
Yeah, I'd obviously heard of New York before, but I didn't really know that there was a place called Ithaca, so that's kind of a bit of a new location to me. Is there anything particular about that place that?
No, other than I know it from a film. That's the only reason I'd heard of it. But yeah, it's a place in New York State, basically.
Yeah. At night, the kids play Truth or Dare. When the kid gives Iris gloves, Silas seems a bit jealous. Yeah, it's been interesting with Silas. I don't know if you've noticed it. I certainly have. I think you probably have. Silas has been giving some looks to Iris and this new guy as well. Yeah, certainly some possibly jealous looks there, because I think, if you remember, what episode was it? I think it was the one before the boat episode, around about then, and he had this sort of moment with Iris, and like she gave him like a coat or something, or he gave her one or something like that, and they sort of bonded a little bit.
Well, it sort of stems back to the sort of dancing.
Yeah, that as well.
Where they were in school.
Yeah, because they've kind of been bonding a little bit, and now that this new guy has kind of come in, yeah, feels a bit of jealousy. Have you sort of noticed some of the looks that he's been giving and stuff?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think they've been signaling that fairly heavily. I mean, Silas clearly has issues with Percy, the new kid, and he's clearly very jealous of the fact that he thought something was going on between him and Iris, and clearly Iris doesn't feel that way, and likes him but doesn't see him in that way. So
yeah, could be some potential things like that as well. Maybe it's like this new Percy guy's come in and she's just kind of getting to know him, or I don't know. We'll see where that goes. But given what Silas does at the end of the episode, it might change everyone's perspective on him, possibly. So Tony and Felix talk about their apocalyptic pasts. Tony didn't expect to be so attached to his son, and he instantly was on day one with him. Felix implies he feels similarly about his brothers and sisters as well. So a bit of a conversation between them two, and this is just before they kind of talk about, like, what's it, that these kids going and getting drunk, and Felix is kind of worried about that, and Tony sort of says about, the kids, just let them sort of have one night. Turns out Silas has more than that, and we see the results of that later, which doesn't work out very well for Tony at all. Yeah, any thoughts on sort of them just let them kind of be kids and stuff? And this is again where this show's a bit different, because I don't remember. There might have been some scenes that I've maybe forgotten, but I don't remember any scenes with like Carl or Enid or Henry where it's been like Ezekiel maybe saying to someone, let the kids have fun tonight, kind of thing. This very much seems to be a bit more fitting with this show, possibly because these characters are slightly older than that. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, we did see a little bit of that on The Walking Dead with the Henry and Enid, and there was that little gang
Right.
that had sort of gone out, and they had their little kind of drinking hideaway where they all kind of gathered and stuff.
Oh yeah,
So
there's that short little scene.
we've seen a little bit of that, but not quite in the same way.
Hmm.
And I mean, a game of Truth or Dare is never a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to end in tears. So yeah, but this is it's what kids do. So
Mhm.
and I think on the surface it makes Tony's quite right. Let them have a little bit of fun. Although I'm not entirely sure whether it's entirely sensible to let anybody particularly be drunk in the middle of an apocalypse when anything could happen. But there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's that. Hope is asked what was the worst thing she's ever done. She spiked a teacher's drink with laxatives. Percy pushes further and wants to know more about what the truth is because he doesn't really believe her. I think the way that Hope says this, it doesn't, like, her tone of voice and body language and everything just doesn't even seem remotely like she's telling the truth. Silas defends Hope but ultimately storms out. Elton follows her and tries to help, hugging her but furthering her guilt and having killed his mother, which he doesn't know about, and she wants to be alone. And then we see a bit later that Huck goes to join her. Yeah, Percy kind of pushing here, and yeah, it seemed very, very obvious that Hope wasn't telling the truth and she just kind of made the story up on the spot and stuff. Percy shouldn't have, pushed her. I know that they're trying to have fun and games and stuff by drinking, but the unfortunate thing for Percy here is, sure, they're drinking, they want to play a bit of truth or dare, it's a bit of fun, but because of the severity and the damage that the actual truth has caused Hope, and we as the audience know that, and we're there with Hope, and nobody else there knows apart from, well, Iris knows that she killed someone, but she doesn't know that it was Elton's mum, and she doesn't know about how that's just affecting her more overall, and Percy doesn't know that either. How could he possibly know what she did? But him kind of drunkenly wanting to push her, trying to do it in a fun way, he doesn't quite realise the buttons that he's pushing, so to speak, and just because this goes beyond like joking about different bad things that you did. She killed somebody when she was younger, and it's traumatized her ever since. So I found it to be a very, very interesting scene nonetheless. And Elton tries to go and show his support. I do like Elton a lot. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, what do you think of Percy and Hope's interaction here?
Yeah, it was kind of a dick move on Percy's part of trying to push her to, and I mean, and in the actual rules of the game, as Elton points out, it wasn't his turn either. So he was kind of trying to take control of it, and Percy was being kind of a dick in that, and I think he's an interesting character, but I don't like him very much. I'm not quite on Silas's level, but I'm not a huge fan of Percy. I think he was being a bit of a dick in that, and I don't like those sort of characters. So we'll see where that goes.
I don't like those sorts of people, really.
Yeah.
But I think the part where Percy didn't really realise is, you could tell also from everything about Hope that she was getting more and more uncomfortable, and Percy just kept pushing and pushing. So even though he doesn't know what he's trying to get her to say, he should have seen her body language and stuff and kind of backed off, but he didn't. So in the past, Huck is briefed by a military leader about eliminating any target she may face, living or dead. In a building, the Marines clear out the dead while civilians try to flee. They judge the dead by their body temperatures, because you can see this like night vision kind of stuff, which is really, really cool. Huck promises civilians she's going to get them out of this difficult situation. I think it leads later on to where she's tasked with killing a bunch of people, and she kills her own group basically. Liked what they did here with the night vision stuff, because I was kind of thinking at the time, like, okay, it's really, really dark, how are you going to see like who you're shooting? And because everybody's kind of running around screaming, and I know the walkers are as well, and they make obviously different noises, but still you've got a bunch of people walking around in the same group. But I liked what they did here, and yet again they're contributing to the lore of kind of what happened, and just kind of not fully, but somewhat answering one of the biggest questions, which is what happened to the military. And Huck was part of it, and we saw quite a few different answers actually to that question here. We saw that she had to end up taking out her own people, and we saw that they got these orders about taking out the living or the dead, which ties in interestingly to, I'm sure it was a scene in season 1, maybe season 2 of The Walking Dead, where there was a flashback with the young version of Carl. There was Laurie and Shane, and they were doing the bombing of the city and everything. And because we kind of knew, we've known both from, I don't really think we've found that out in Fear, but in The Walking Dead and in this show, we've kind of seen like, okay, the military kind of, not only were they kind of killing each other by what Huck does later on, but they'd sort of given up on, okay, picking out the targets and helping the civilians because they have the order to kill them all, and just sort of screw it, bomb the city kind of answer.
Yeah.
And I think this contributes quite interestingly to that, because this is also sort of different and smaller version of that, because we also saw in the Felix flashback where he's running along one of the roads somewhere, that those jet things, I'm not sure what they're called, they're sort of going over the city and starting to bomb the situation. So you sort of have that where they're bombing the city, and then the scene later on where it's just like, okay, screw it, we're going to just kill living and dead, like if you see anything moving. So I really, really like what they did here, and as somebody who again looks for zombie set pieces and those sorts of things, I think the use of night vision here was great, and a little bit of action as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like the use of the night vision. I'm not sure that's something we've ever actually seen in the Walking Dead universe before.
I don't think so. No.
I think that was kind of an interesting addition. And yeah, I think you're right. We have seen this thing about the sort of orders of coming down of just kill everything. We've seen a little bit of that. I think we did see some of it in Fear, because in the first season of Fear there was a point where they ended up on a sort of army base, and there was similar orders. I seem to remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I seem to remember
the first 2 episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very early on. So
very quickly abandoned it.
Yeah. So I'm sort of glad that we are getting more of that here. As I say, this is doing the job that Fear was supposed to do in a lot of respects. So yeah, I think that was all interesting and good. But yeah, the night vision thing, I do wonder whether we may see. I mean, we know why this was set up here, because she uses it later on. But I do wonder if maybe we'll see a bit more of that later on as well.
Yeah, I'd like to, definitely. So I think one of the interesting differences with this and what Fear did, Fear very much focused on a family of 5 or 6, and it was sort of this really small scale kind of story where you could tell in those Fear episodes very, very early on that, like, okay, sure, the military was fighting back, there was the early panic and stuff, but it very much sort of tried to be a bit more intimate and focus on the characters, whereas in Well Beyond, where you have people like Felix and Huck who are in different situations, and the kids that are in different situations in different places as well, because they're all kind of separate, I know that you're getting a perspective of now one fully formed group with the main 6 people. I know Percy's here as well, but like the main 6 characters, those perspectives that you're getting are offering different situations, because you've got like Elton with his dad, he was kind of connected to it and whatever, and then you've got Silas, who was like at school and stuff, and then you've got Felix and Huck, who are kind of in the army and whatever. So you're getting stories from the same group, but they're all in different situations when we visit the flashbacks, and they've all offered something different and a different perspective on the start of what happened. And then of course you have the Hope Iris thing with Elton's mum and all that. They're all just so different, and I think that's a much better way of kind of exploring this quite large scale backstory for the whole franchise, really. So yeah. But like I said, in Fear, when we kind of got it and it was treated as present day, they were all together, so they were all seeing pretty much the same thing. So
yeah.
In the present, Huck joins Hope on the roof to press her about what is wrong and sort of ask her. Hope opens up and about having killed someone. She was scared my mum was going to take her truck, because there was the truck involved as well. She explains, she freaked out and she shot my mum. She dropped the gun and I picked it up and pointed it at her and it went off. She was pregnant and I killed her. She was Elton's mum. Huck assures her that she was a kid, which she very much was. She tells her that sometimes it is dark but the light will come. Yeah, finally she told someone. I mean, I can't imagine having... I mean, it's probably been on her chest for at least like 10 years or so, because my guess would have been that she would have been around 5 or 6 maybe. Sometimes I'm a bad judge of age, and now they're supposed to be sort of 15, 16, so 9, 10 years-ish, because they've spent like loads and loads of time with the community and stuff, where we actually first see them in the pilot, and obviously the flashbacks are offering the backstory. So she's had this on her chest for a very, very long time, and it must have just been killing her, emotionally for so long. Glad that she finally told someone, and I think someone like maybe Huck or Felix would have been a good option to kind of choose. I'm just glad that she finally told someone as well, and she actually fully told her. She kind of ended up telling her more than she told Iris, because she actually tells her, okay, this is Elton's mum, and that, she kind of realizes that that's why she's specifically so stressed, because she didn't just kill someone's mum, she killed someone's mum who is now with the group and considered a good friend, especially like the way that Elton offers her help and speaks to her and stuff, and it's probably just been weighing on her a lot. So what do you think of Hope actually finally telling someone the full truth?
I'm glad she has done, and Huck basically says what I was saying last week, which is don't tell him, because this will do nobody any good, and if you're telling him, you're doing it to relieve your tension. You're doing it to help you. You're not doing it to help him. The information does him absolutely no good at all, really. The only time it would do, as I said last week, the only time that it would do Elton any good is if he's in a situation where maybe he thinks he's seen his mum and puts himself in danger to go and rescue somebody that he believes is his mother. That's the only time when the information that they know for a fact that his mother is dead might actually do some good. So at the moment, it would do Elton absolutely no good to know, and it's not going to help the cohesion in the group at all. And you've got to remember as well, I mean, it's interesting the way they've set this up, because Elton's mum did kill Hope and Iris. Did kill Hope and Iris's mum.
Yeah.
So, or killed Hope's mum, because they were kind of adopted, aren't they? So yeah, but So given that was the situation, the fact that she was a kid and she shot Elton's mum, and yes, it was a pregnant lady, and but she was a child when she did it, and the fact that she'd just seen her mum shot by this woman, that there is a sort of it kind of gives us some justification for the fact that she did it. It wasn't like she just randomly decided to go on a killing spree and take out this pregnant person, So there is. It's interesting the way that they've managed to frame this in that there is potentially a road, even if it does come out to Elton, he's going to be upset about it, but there is potentially a redemption road back, because Elton's mum wasn't completely innocent in this either. So but it's the fact that I think Huck gives some perspective as well. Huck actually sort of says, look, this will not do. Telling anybody else, telling Elton will not do him any good and will not do the group any good. So, suck it up. And she talks about the fact that they need to carry the weight of it. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do think that Elton will be, well, not he won't be like, oh, that's completely. He'll be, upset, obviously, and everything like that. And I do think that he will forgive Hope. I just don't think that now necessarily is the best time to tell him. So you will probably get that scene at some point.
I think so.
Do you think? An idea's just popped into my head. What about if? Oh, that would be a bad cliffhanger. If hope tails Elton at like the end of the season and you cut off before before his reaction is revealed. I don't want to put ideas in Matt Negret's head. Obviously, they've already done the season anyway. But yeah, can you? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know whether you'd leave that as a cliffhanger, but
That's pretty bad.
It is gonna come out at some point. I mean, clearly that it because they've been playing around with it so much. So at some point, you know it's gonna come out.
Yeah.
It's just the reason for it coming out, and you know, as I say, there needs to be a reason for Hope to actually feel like she needs to tell him, other than to take the guilt off herself. You know, there needs to be some reason why Elton needs to know that information. And as I said, the obvious one would be if he sees a woman that looks a bit like his mother, and you know, puts himself in danger to try and rescue her because he believes it's his mother. And in that situation, maybe, maybe you say something, but
yeah. So I guess the Walking Dead cliffhangers have given me bad ideas. So
yeah.
from the past, because the shows isn't the only place that they've done that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's one of the interesting things in the show at the moment, and it's going to certainly change the group dynamic a little bit at least when it happens. In the past, Huck is questioning where the civilians are. New orders are to kill anyone that is living or dead in the field, and yeah, they have this scene where I don't think it's written on later in my notes. Let me just very quickly check. No, I don't think it is. Yeah, they got the situation where the you know, these civilians are on the other side of this fence. You've got 8 army people, maybe 6, maybe 8 or so, and they're about to just shoot them all through this fence. And then Huck kind of, what does she do to the fence? She kind of does this. I can't remember what she did to it, but she sort of distracted the guards and whatever, and then ends up taking out all of her crew, I suppose. And then I'm guessing, because this guy that she was with in the past or friends with or whatever, they sort of put their guns to each other, and I'm guessing that she does have to sort of shoot him and put him down. Yeah, one of the maybe darker scenes in the show that we've had so far, and you know, continuing with where they've been going with this whole thing, which is essentially they got to the government, I suppose, got to a point where it was, okay, let's just kill everyone and take everyone out, because it was shoot the living or the dead and bomb the city. That was their answer in the end, I suppose. And this also gives a bit of an example as to not the whole military, but we know how some of the army died now, which was the Huck had to kill some of them. What did you think of this particular scene?
Yeah, the guy's name was Walter. Apparently, I'm just looking down the notes a bit further. It does. There is the little bit about where he actually where she kills the lights and just kind of turns and massacres the rest of the group.
Right.
So, oh no, that was Walter. Sorry, Walter's the guy we meet later on. Forget I said that.
No worries. Yeah, what do you think of this?
Just her friend.
Yeah.
So this scene. The scene where she sort of kills the lights and just massacres the group, it does give you a hint of maybe what happened to the military. It does, because usually if an order like that goes out, it will come out from some sort of central location, which is sort of what we saw, you know, and the order seems to be just kill everything and save yourselves. Actually, which is not what you want to hear from military leaders.
No.
And it stands to reason that when an order like that lands, you are going to have people like Huck that are going to go, hang on a minute, no, we're here to protect people. I'm not going to kill a bunch of civilians. So, I mean, if this sort of situation was repeated in military bases that all received the same message around the world or around America, you are potentially sort of thinking, well, maybe the military kind of ate itself. You know, you might have this sort of incident happening across military bases, where you're having, you know, you've had this controversial order turn up, and you've got people that the rank and file are going, no, I'm not murdering people. just because you say, yeah, this is what the order is. I'm not prepared to do that. So, it's possible that the military turned in on itself, and that's maybe one of the reasons why it doesn't exist anymore, or as far as we're aware, it doesn't anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you did that. It becomes this sort of disparate entity, and of course, if they've not got radio contact, they can't necessarily get back to get orders off other people either. So they become very disparate things. So whilst there might be pockets of it, there's not like one central military kind of unit. And if that was the last order they had, some may be operating under that sort of kill everything thing. Some maybe had grown a conscience like Huck did and are actually actively trying to help people. And maybe they've turned into different sort of military groups and that sort of thing. So, but it's interesting. It would be interesting to see some sort of show that is, or some episodes that are based specifically at military bases to see how things were handled.
They could do that with the anthology show, maybe as well. So I like that they're actually doing that as well, because that gives a lot of opportunities to tell just different sides of this story, and it can just be one-off episodes. We don't need to have like military guy A, military woman A, and then follow them for 5 seasons of 10 episodes. You can just have one 1 hour episode and just sort of tell their story. It sort of seems to me that I agree with you here as well, that although the whole military probably isn't dead, and we know that they're all not because Felix and Huck are still here and they were part of it, but yeah, it probably did get to a situation where this order, it's almost, do you know what this makes me? It makes me think of Order 66 from Star Wars, about just like, okay, let's just screw it, we'll just kill everyone. That just sort of popped into my head, because that was like, what was that again? That was like the elimination of something, wasn't it, in Star Wars, the Order 66 thing?
Yeah, Order 66 was the this order that had been programmed into the clones that made them turn on the Jedi.
Right, that was it. Yeah, so sort of a bit like that, but in Walking Dead terms, of like the government's executed their own version of that, and it's like, okay, just shoot anything living or dead and let's bomb the city. And it does kind of give, that alone kind of gives a good explanation as to what happened to the military, because not only did they probably disperse into smaller groups, some of them obviously died. Some of them probably did get bitten by walkers, as we have seen, because they're not covered. I was looking at their actual outfits and uniform in this episode. They're not covered completely from head to toe. You could like bite their face or probably their neck or something. If you get enough walkers, it could maybe one of them could take a helmet off of a soldier or something. So although they do have a lot of body armor, there's some weak spots and stuff. But and I mean, you're talking about the start of the apocalypse as well, when there was, well, a lot more than what there, a lot more walkers than what there probably is now. So that's probably just how it generally went down.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, you've got to bear in mind this is America, and there are quite heavily armored civilians out there. I mean, not necessarily to military level, although some of them are. There's
more guns.
There are a lot more guns. There are a lot more civilians out there, and if you're dealing with an army base which is maybe depleted, and you've just seen the army bomb a city, if you've got a group of militia that are based out in a woods somewhere and they've just seen their entire, the local city get kind of completely nuked, you're going to provoke an armed conflict for anybody that has a gun and is close by, and he's going to want to take it back out on the army. So you're going to get a certain amount of revolution against the army as well. I would suspect.
And then that turns more people into walkers, and then that creates more chaos.
Exactly.
So, and let's face it, when it comes to guns, America doesn't really have gun control.
No.
So they talk about gun control a lot, but they just don't really have it really necessarily. So that's pretty much the situation. But again, see, this scene has just sparked a whole conversation between the two of us about what probably happened to the army in the show, and again, that's just more than what Fear ever did, and that was the whole point of the show, but they've moved away from that now. So but moving on from all the military stuff, very, very, very interesting stuff. I really like what they did there. In the present, a stranger has taken Hope hostage. We'll get back to that in a second. Felix and Tony search together because they've been looking for these fuel pumps and everything like that. Felix and Tony search together, discussing people close to them and what's important. They realise the gas supply has been hidden very well, but they find a piece of equipment which looks new or well kept, and they find like some fuel there and things like that. Because earlier in the episode, when they were, I think it was when they were talking as a group, weren't they? And Tony had like all these little gas spots on the map, so they've been sort of searching for that throughout the episode as well, which I thought was kind of cool. Any thoughts on their search for gas and the map and all that sort of thing?
No, not really much there. I think the next bit's a bit more interesting.
Definitely, yeah. In the other room, Huck tries to reason with this particular stranger. I saw it in the credits as well, because it does pop. You can pop the cast name up on Amazon, and it tells you like who's playing who and stuff. And he is just listed as the stranger. The man explains that he woke up and his brother had turned. He reveals his name to be Walter. Huck wants to help him. Huck pushes Hope to the side and points a gun at Huck, because she basically says, like, you know, point the gun at me and focus on me to take the pressure off of Hope. She remembers being in the past and fighting the orders to kill people, which we just talked about. She gets closer to Walter and tries to explain that they can save him, but she puts him into a headlock, telling him she can save him. She remembers watching the Marines get ready to kill the civilians. She kills the lights and then kills all of the Marines beside her, including her friend in the present. She shoots Walter in the head. Hope is shocked. The group rushes in. They find a CRM notebook which might have information in it. Yeah, what did you think of this? I don't know, how tense did you find this hostage scene? Were you genuinely scared for Hope's life?
No, because you knew Hope was going to kind of get out of it. And it was pretty obvious from the moment the guy was bitten, Huck was going to shoot him in the head, I think. Because, I mean, there's no way she could... I mean, he'd already said, I was bitten, you know, hours ago. So he was already dead at that point. I mean, clearly he was. So the only thing that Hope could do to quote unquote save him was to shoot him and put him out of his misery fairly quickly. So, I mean, Huck could do to save him, which would be to shoot him. So, I mean, that was fairly obvious the way that was going to go. But it was nice the way they intermixed that with the flashback stuff, you know. And I thought that worked well, the sort of bouncing backwards and forwards, and you kind of, you know, saw what she'd done in her past and what she was going to do now, and it made perfect sense. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, and she basically, because they quickly cut back to the thing at the fence and that, which we talked about earlier, she pretty much had to shoot Walter in the head, because he was sort of with the government in a way of like, no, we don't disobey orders, and kind of immediately turned his gun onto Huck when she decided to shoot all of her army. Well, not really friends, but her army colleagues and whatever. So I thought that was good. I thought that the actual hostage situation was fairly interesting. I didn't particularly think that Hope would die, but you just sometimes you don't really quite know. I mean, sometimes The Walking Dead can kill characters that you don't expect to die necessarily. But at the moment, I do feel at the moment that specifically Iris and Hope, out of everyone in this group, Iris and Hope are probably the two most important, because, you know, the whole goal of the thing is to get them to their dad. So if you kill, you could still kill one of them, I guess, and have the other one meet their dad, but it just wouldn't really add up quite so well, I don't think. But yeah, we've not had too much of this necessarily, like hostage situations. I know that we had Tony and what's the other guy's name? I keep forgetting his name. The one that
Percy.
Yeah, that's it. Them two kind of, you know, trying to maybe screw the group over and stuff, but there wasn't really ever a hostage situation there. So yeah, I thought it was a bit different for the show to do. I mean, so far, like these 7 episodes that we've had, you haven't really had a lot of interactions with characters outside of the group, apart from the separate scenes with Elizabeth and then the other ones in the zombie area thing, like with the post-credit scenes. But other than that, it's pretty much just been the group. So which has really, really helped out with the... I've talked a lot lately about structures of TV shows and what certain things, you know, certain shows get right and wrong, but I don't think that they've had any trouble really structuring the show, because most of the characters that we follow are always in the same scene. But yeah, I thought the hostage situation was good, and it added a bit more to the characters, which I think was good as well. In the present, Hope and Iris talk outside. Iris thinks they're changing, so changing like what they are as people and that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious that they kind of are. I mean, that they've put themselves into a situation where they've never been in before. They've never fought these walkers. They've never really encountered people necessarily. And kind of like what Felix has said before, that they're not really ready to actually be out here, but they don't really have any other choice necessarily. What do you think of what Iris says here about like the characters changing and that? Because they definitely have.
Well, yeah, of course they have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, they're going to change as you go through. It's kind of a fairly obvious statement. I would have thought that.
Yeah. Inside, Tony and Percy have decided to ride with them and stick around on the New York trip, so they want to actually stay with the group for a little bit. Felix calls for everyone to go to sleep. Percy invites Iris to come and see him at the truck in an hour. She doesn't realise that he's kind of basically flirting with her. As you know, we talked about earlier with Silas and all that situation. She catches on and agrees to join him. Silas remains quietly jealous. So yeah, building up some more early tensions with Silas, and we see the unfortunate results later on. Anything you want to say here necessarily?
No, I thought this was quite a cute little scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the Percy sort of clearly hitting on her and just being utterly oblivious to it, which is quite cute.
Yeah. Which one would you prefer with Iris? Because I'd quite like to see Silas instead, because I don't really like Percy very much.
Yeah. The problem is Silas is rather unhinged, so. I mean, neither of them are a great choice, but you know, you're in the middle of apocalypse. You take what you can get, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think Silas is the better fit, but I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I just don't really like Percy that much. He's very, very. I know, kind of their whole part of him and Tony's thing was to be con artists and that, but he's just a bit more scheming than what Tony is, isn't he? He's just a bit more. Yeah. He's certainly more of a sinister character.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, I don't mind him overall. I just think he's a bit of a dick, and he, certainly the way that he was acting earlier, I don't think he necessarily has bad intentions, but you know, he's that's just the way his character is at the moment.
See, I trusted him a bit at the end of last week's episode because it all seemed to be kind of good among the group, but how he sort of acts in this episode, Percy I'm talking about, I don't know, I don't really trust him that much particularly. So yeah. Elton proudly shows off a card trick for Hope. Oh boy, it's kind of tough to watch Elton and Hope scenes because like Hope knows, we know, Elton's just hasn't really got a clue.
He's so sweet as well. He's such a sweet kid, and so it is quite difficult watching some of those scenes.
Yeah. She hands back his mum's book and compliments her. He reveals hope of still her being alive. This just punches the gut, doesn't it? These scenes. Like, he's all happy and like, oh, I might find my mum, and Hope standing there. And we know with her, like, the truth, it's a bit heartbreaking. She later talks to Huck privately. She took a necklace from Elton's mum and shows Huck that she is wearing it. In the past, Huck scars herself with a knife to match her Marine's friend's scar that she had to kill. She identifies with Hope's desire to carry that weight and live to do good. I know I was kind of doing a bit of commentary on the scene as I was reading it out, but it just gives a bit of a sucker punch, doesn't it? About like Elton being really hopeful that his mum's there. Hope knows what happens, what has happened. She's been carrying this around for years. She can't tell him yet. She doesn't want to really tell him yet, and Elton's he's such a happy, hopeful guy, and it's a bit sad.
This scene's quite interesting because it does give another way of Elton potentially finding out as well because of the necklace, which
Yeah,
clearly
possibly.
Elton hasn't seen before. And if it's a necklace that Elton recognizes, he's going to be like, well, how did you get that? My mum that looks like my mum's necklace. Where did you find it? There's going to be a lot of that. So I suspect the fact that they've highlighted the necklace, I suspect that may be where we actually, that Hope actually has to sort of admit it at that point. I suspect Elton spots the necklace. That would seem to be the only reason for actually mentioning it at this point.
Yeah.
So
it's just a bit of
plus, that does seem a little bit morbid as well. The fact that she seems to have taken almost a trophy off the fact that she killed somebody, which is kind of. I know she was only a small child, and that I don't think that's what she did do, but it does look a bit like that, which is not a good look. So.
Yeah,
I would be chucking that necklace away if it was me. But it's sort of. I understand why she doesn't want to, because it's a sort of reminder of what she did. But that's going to come back to bite her.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But just feel a bit sorry for Elton. So, Iris goes and meets Percy in the back of the truck. He has set the whole thing up with candles and paintings on the sides. Where did he get all this?
There was a box of, I don't know where he got all the candles from, but there was a box of art books which they were flipping through early on. And she sort of says, she talks about that. This is the culmination of the Truth or Dare game as well, because one of the things that Iris says in the Truth or Dare game is if she could go anywhere, she'd go to the Louvre, so she could see all the artwork and stuff, and starts going off about how the artwork is great. So it was quite a sweet thing that Percy sort of came up with, was trying to create a sort of mini version of the Louvre for her, because she's never going to get to see the real thing. So it was quite a sweet gesture that he actually made. But but it was weird that he had a bunch of art books just happened to be kicking around in the back of his van.
Yeah, art books are on the floor. He clipped the photos out of them for the walls. Iris falls asleep in the truck with the books. She wakes up later and goes inside to look for Percy. She finds Tony on his face. She finds Tony with his face bashed in. A trail of blood leads to the out of the room. A wrench is beside them. She calls for Felix and Hope. There is another body in the bathroom, and Silas is drunk on the ground in there, and he clearly bashed Tony's head in. Yeah, so we've been talking throughout most of the podcast about building tensions with Silas and what might happen, and his kind of jealous looks at Percy and Iris, and he kind of wants her, and Percy sort of gotten in there or whatever. Yeah, what do you think of first of all, the fact that Tony's dead and that Silas did it?
I'm really sad that Tony's dead, because I quite liked him as a character. I would have liked to have seen more of him. It seems pretty obvious that Silas did it, even though we didn't actually see it.
Right, because he's got his wrench with him and everything, and that's got blood on it. Yeah, because he's got.
I can't. And there is a distinct possibility that Silas won't remember actually doing it, as well.
Possibly, yeah.
But the question is now, this is the second time that he snapped and gone off on one. And I mean, last time he did it, it was against a Walker, but now he's done it against one of the group. What do you do with him? Because clearly he's mentally unstable, and I don't know. That's going to be really interesting to see how they handle that. Whether they decide to ostracize him in some way, whether they put him down, whether they kind of take him with them but want to keep an eye on him. How Silas is going to feel, because Silas is going to be mortified over this. And this comes back to what we've been saying all along, because we've talked about who do you think is going to be the person that doesn't survive the end of the season. And I still put my money on Silas, because I think he's going to end up sacrificing himself in some way. That would seem to be the most obvious thing, because he's got things that he needs to make up for. So it's just whether the group decide to keep him with them or not, because I mean, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, he's definitely a bit of a danger to the group and stuff, and obviously he's just killed someone that's in the group.
Mm.
Do you think? Because I'm trying to think of what actually happened here. Seems like obviously he got drunk. He's got a bottle of something in his hand. Do
Mm.
you think he, saw he was, the whole jealousy thing over Percy, and then maybe he got drunk and thought that was Percy, and then just sort of attacked him, or I don't know.
Maybe maybe he got violent with Tony, or
Tony tried to calm him down, maybe.
yeah, Tony tried to calm him down, or maybe Tony was doing something shady. I mean,
Maybe,
we don't
maybe.
know these, and Silas went after him, but and freaked out, but we don't know what the full story is at the moment, so it's very difficult to say.
hmm
But
Do you think we
it
might?
doesn't look good.
Do you think we might get a little flashback? Because I
Possibly,
do think we need a bit of context. It's like, okay, what did actually happen here? Because it looked
yeah,
obviously,
possibly,
got drunk, killed Tony, but why? I suppose.
yeah,
That could be the cold open of the next episode. That would be quite good. Or maybe as Silas is kind of, once he sobers up and stuff, he can kind of explain the story, and then as we get in the explanation of it, we can kind of see a flashback of it. I don't know. But I do think it's important that we see what happened in that, so that we have more context. Because
yeah,
specifically with violence, out of everybody in the group, for someone to do a violent attack, it's very interesting that Silas has been the one that's done this because of his violent past and everything. So we shall see. But that's the end of the episode. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that Tony's gone as well. I thought he was, seemed like a nice guy. He was kind of bonding a little bit with Elton, and I mean, I would have rather had Percy gotten killed. So
yeah.
yeah, just because of he just seems a bit shady. So we shall see. But let's move on to your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns about The Walking Dead World Beyond, and entertainment talk and stuff. If you have those feelings, questions, comments, concerns about anything related to Walking Dead or entertainment talk, Matthew at entertainmenttalk.org, Twitter @talkuk, there's a contact page and information in your show notes. Ian says, wow, didn't expect Silas to kill a member of the group like that. Do we have a Lizzie and Mika situation on our hands? Maybe Carol needs to pay him a visit. Do you remember the Lizzie Mika thing from season 4? Yeah, it was season 4. Yeah.
Yeah, because that culminated in the look at the flowers
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Quite an iconic
Yes.
thing now. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you think we have that
Um,
situation on our hands?
well, I mean, possibly it's slightly different, in that with the kid and Carol, the kid was actively, had made the active decision. I mean, clearly he was disturbed, but had made the decision to say, I want to, turn these people into walkers. That she was
Right.
actively trying to do it. Whereas with Silas, it's more of a mental break.
Hmm.
So it's a slightly different situation, but he is still a danger because if he snaps, he's a big guy, and that's kind of a,
hmm
what do you do?
It's
You know,
interesting as well because Tony's not, Tony's pretty big as well. Like, he's a fully grown big adult and
yeah,
everything. So yeah, it kind of makes you wonder how the fight and stuff went. So
yeah. But to be fair, Silas did have a big ass wrench on him, so
yeah, 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 I suppose so. So we'll see. But no, for anybody wondering, Carol probably won't show up in this show. I very
no,
much doubt it. So Tyler, I have been enjoying this show so far, and I like how it's focused on smaller groups. Thanks also for recommending Working Mums. It's great. It absolutely is great. It's a fantastic show. If you're wondering what Tyler's talking about, there's a show called Working Mums. It's on CBS in the US and Netflix in the UK. I recently did, not really a review, just a sort of discussion podcast on it and why it was so good and what I'd enjoyed about it. If you look for that on the website, Working Mums, you should be able to find me discussing the show, and I'd highly recommend that you go and watch it. So you're very welcome, Tyler, and that you've listened to my recommendations, and you've come out on the better side of it. Yeah, I mean, focusing on the smaller group and stuff, I mean, that's what we kind of did have at the start of the other two shows, and then you slowly expanded the group and things, but I don't know. It's interesting with this show as well with the smaller group because we don't have the potential that okay, once we get to season 4 and 5, we'll have a bigger group because it's going to end next season. I do suspect that by the time we get to the end of the second season, the group's probably going to be a little bit longer. But the whole design of the show is supposed to be, you know, these girls are looking for their dad. The journey is part of that. They've got friends with them, and then they've got two kind of mentor characters, Felix and Huck. And then flashbacks are sort of tied in to explain what happened to them in the past and, you know, give them character development and things. So it's just a bit of a different goal, I think. I don't really see, even by the end of the second season, I can't see the group being as big as like The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead. I think that I think you're going to have characters come in and out, like when Tony and I've forgotten his name again. Percy. I keep thinking it's Casey or something, but Percy. Tony and Percy have come in. Obviously, Tony's gone now, but I don't think that you're going to have an episode where we get like 10 new characters or something, because it's just got a different story goal to the other two shows, and in order to keep focus on that, you have to really focus on these main characters. They'll probably add like a few characters here and there. I just don't see this becoming a massive ensemble show. What do you think?
No, I don't see it becoming that sort of size. If anything, I think you're probably going to lose characters before the end of it. It will introduce characters, I think, such as Elizabeth, which I think will be used across multiple shows. But I don't see this core group growing by some huge amount. I think, if anything, like I say, you might lose somebody like Silas, you might gain somebody like Percy, but I don't see it being a massive, massive group of people, because that, it's not like with the other things, you get a massive group of people because they're settlers. They're moving from place to place. In most cases, they're looking for some place to settle down. Certainly on the main show, so you end up with lots of people in Alexandria, lots of people at Hilltop. That's the sort of setup for that. Whereas with this, it's specific to small group mission to get from A to B, and that's the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst it will introduce more characters, I don't think it's going to introduce more lead main characters throughout.
I think the only situation where you're going to get more characters is if you get a scene with Elizabeth where she's controlling like one of her bigger armies or something.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to be, they're characters.
That's going to be a bit separate.
That you might see those people pop up in other shows, possibly. Like I say, Elizabeth, I think, is one of those sort of characters which I can certainly see popping up on either Fear or, because Fear has been dealing with this group. Or you can even see her popping up potentially on the main show as well. Somebody like that, I think, is the type of person that you could shift across shows. And there will be other people that may be involved in the organization that you could see jump across shows. But in terms of the core main group that we're following, no, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and you'll probably just continue to get split scenes from that, and then in the series finale, they'll probably tie it all together. So we'll see how that goes.
Hope.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. So that's what we've got for you for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. You can, of course, email us in, let us know your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns on The Walking Dead, any of the 3 shows, or just really anything related to Entertainment Talk. If you want to find everything else that we do, if you like what you've heard today and you want to hear some more from us, you can head over to entertainmenttalk.org. We've got podcasts on TV, video games, films, and Manchester United when they play again on Saturday, and then of course throughout the rest of the season. If you like what you've heard and you want to support it and get involved more, that will be brilliant. We do have our Patreon page, of course. You can check for us on there, the $1 and $3 level tiers. That's for ad-free podcast and review options as well. Word of mouth, you can simply tell people that you know about the website, the iTunes feeds, and social media. You can do the same thing over there, but through Facebook and Twitter. And if you can, in different Facebook groups. if you want your up-to-date and reliable TV and film news, you can check out what David is doing over on Geektown. That's geektown.co.uk, and of course Geektown Radio episodes on Tuesdays. So check all that out. Geektown Radio episodes there. For your weekly TV and film news, check all that out. Search for Geektown on your favourite podcast platform, and search for Entertainment Talk on your favourite podcast platform. Get yourself subscribed, and please rate, review the feeds as well. Over on the Twitch side of things, Bex is streaming daily at the moment over on Twitch. If you search for Trista Bytes, Trista, Bytes, go and follow her and subscribe to her over there. I'm streaming as well, not daily, but quite often at the moment. If you search for eTalk UK on Twitch, you should be able to find me over there, streaming the PES Master League, which I'm going to do some more possibly tomorrow of. Gotta go through that season and stuff, and I'm also going to be doing, if you like The Walking Dead, which I'm assuming that you do, sort of, if you're watching the show, I'm going to be doing The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners as well, so check that out soon as well. Also, if you want to see me as Batman, I did just stream and put on YouTube the, do you remember the Batman Arkham VR game? I just did that.
Oh, yeah.
Did that as well. That was an interesting experience.
Game is stretching it, I think, slightly for that.
Yeah. Things very large and in your face in that game. Very surprising. Even just things like logos are very much in your face. But a really good experience nonetheless. And you can check that out over there as well. And last thing is you can look out for Let's Play Sunday episodes. Thanks very much for listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.